Oh, hey, let's talk about teaching. So last week we talked about the three different types of learners. We have the thinkers, we have the feelers, and then we have the doers. So what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be talking about this right here, the feelers. How can you build an environment where feeling learners can thrive? Your feeling students understand values. Now, when we're talking about values, I don't want you to think about values like one value system versus another value system. A feeling learner understands and is impacted by the value of expression. Let's think about it this way. You're teaching a lesson on joy, and you're looking at a specific character in the Bible about how they express joy. Well, one person may express joy at this value. Another person may express joy at this value. It's a difference of expression, and feeling learners appreciate that value between the way we express something or the way that we would feel something. So that's the thing I want us to think about. Another thing that's important to know about your feeling learners is that they're really impacted by the concepts and new truths or new concepts. So they find impression important. Things mean something to them. When they're impacted with a new truth or a new concept, they really are impacted. Those epiphany moments are very, very important to your feeling learners. The other thing that's important to your feeling learners is relationships. The bonding of souls, the joining of lives. When you're teaching lessons where this is coming to, when we can see this, those are really important to them. So let me ask a question. Who can you think of in the Bible that might be feeling learners? I think about Mary, Martha's sister. She's the one who sat at Jesus' feet. She's the one who really was the one, kind of the empathetic one. I also think that David was a feeling learner. David is a feeling learner because you can see he was a psalmist. You can see the way he expressed himself in the friendship with Jonathan. You can see that he was very expressive, and these things were very important to David. I also think that Moses could be considered a feeling learner. He felt things deeply. Even the call that God gave him, he felt that deeply. The rebellion of his people, he felt that deeply. Another person, I would say John, the writer of the Gospels, and especially in his later letters, we see that John is a very effective person. He expresses himself in all of these things and moves and charges people towards these ideas here. What are we doing to help create that environment where these feeling learners can express themselves the best way possible? Well, first of all, think about this. Think about real versus canned. What does that mean? So I want you to think about the way that you tell stories or the way that you might illustrate something. Use real stories, things that are real, personal stories mean something to your feeling learners. Another thing to know about your stories is make sure that you have humor and not sarcasm. Make sure you have solemnity versus stoic. Humor and solemnity. When your stories are solemn, that's important to have. There are very solemn stories in Scripture. There are very solemn stories in our own personal lives. The way that we express very serious matters. But there's also in that solemnity a sense of redemption. There's a sense that there's a movement somewhere. Stoic is just a flat facts. Humor, of course, is something that keeps things light, but try to keep it away from being sarcastic or being making fun of one person or one group of people over another. Keep things humorous, keep things solemn when it needs to be, but avoid things like sarcasm and stoicness. Another thing is going to be connected versus isolated. Here's what we mean about this, is that when you are sharing stories, when you're sharing these personal stories, your feeling learners might wait until they're the second or even third person to share their story because they're looking for a connection. They want to know that they're in the same the same story, the same situation, the same boat for that matter. They don't want to feel isolated. If a feeling learner feels isolated, they'll tend to shut down. So what happens? So either pay attention to who your feeling learners are and watch them and how they connect and how they share. They may wait, but here's the thing. If they share first, if no one shares after them, this is where they end up. So you, as the teacher, you as the guide of the lesson, make sure that you understand this connection is important and share your own story after they share theirs, because you want them to feel connected and not isolated. So that's really important to know. The other third thing is acceptance versus judgment. What does that mean? Acceptance means taking your feeling learners and appreciating where they are in their life story as it is right then. When they feel judged because they feel like they ought to be somewhere else in their life, this tends to shut your feeling learners down. There is a challenge to grow, absolutely. Make sure that your feeling learners feel accepted and challenged towards growth, not judged because of where they are and they're not growing. This will shut your feeling learners down. This leads us into the last thing, and that is trust versus shame. Notice that both of these things deal with motivation. What kind of environment do you have in your class when it comes to motivation? Is it a trusting environment or is it an environment of shame? And here's what it means. Trust woos someone into a relationship, woos something into a movement forward. Trust draws people towards a connection. Shame shocks people into taking a step forward. Shame will tend to shove people into a motivation. What does it take to build trust? We've already talked about these things here. They build trust. So remember, when you're trying to build trust, what you want to do is you want to live together with your students. You want to learn together, laugh together, cry together. Last thing you can do is do things together. And that leads us into this section here, the doing learn. What are important to them? We'll find out about them next time.
So when you're happy, hooray! Or sad, aww, or frightened, eek! Or mad, rats! Or excited, wow! Or glad, hey! An interjection starts a sentence right.